Now that the NFL draft is over, who has had the best offseason so far? Hello, all you beautiful people. World's Okayest lawyer here. What a draft experience. Detroit absolutely killed it this weekend, making the draft must watch. I am going to discuss the 2024 five best NFL team offseason moves, including the draft heading into 2024. Number one, my Pittsburgh Steelers. I know this is a bit of a homer pick, but Omar Khan has absolutely been crushing it the last couple years. Going into the offseason, the Steelers needed quarterback, offensive line, cornerback, or defensive back, however you want to view it, wide receiver, and in my opinion, they could have used another, safety. The Steelers brought in Russell Wilson for league minimum and obtained Justin Fields for a conditional 6th-round pick. Just absolute steals on that side of the ball. They also signed Patrick Queen to play inside linebacker and Dante Jackson to play opposite of Joey Porter Jr. All were very smart acquisitions leading into the draft, where the Steelers, again, absolutely crushed it. Last season, the offensive line was just such a detriment, giving Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph not a lot of time to let plays develop. It was also a very vanilla offensive scheme where I swear Matt Canada's playbook was only one page. Today, they have an offensive line that can play against the Browns and Ravens' stout defensive units when they drafted Troy Fautanu at amazing value at number 20. They then grabbed Zach Frazier at number 51, who was a lot of people's number 2 center in the draft. Mason McCormick at number 119, who I believe will challenge for a starting guard spot by opening game. Last season, the line could not sustain rushing lanes or protect the pocket. This season, Najee and Warren might be able to walk through holes that are there, and whether it is ultimately Russell Wilson or Justin Fields that ends up being the starter, they will now have eternity to throw. Just such a tremendous first 3 selections in the draft. The Steelers did not stop there, picking up who most analysts believed was really the number 1 inside linebacker in Peyton Willis at number 98, but he does not have an ACL, so a lot of teams were scared off. Not my Steelers. However, the Duke can straight fly, sideline to sideline. Steelers also got them a gamer at wide receiver Roman Wilson at number 84. My own complaint with him is that he is another sub-6-foot wide receiver on the roster, but I sure like his 4.3 speed, and as news has been indicating over the last 24 to 48 hours, it sounds like there's a chance that the Steelers might be going and getting a brand new wide receiver too. So more to potentially follow there. Number 2, Arizona Cardinals. Coming into the season, Arizona had holes at quarterback, wide receiver, defensive back, and edge. Although the Cardinals did not pick up another quarterback, continuing the Kyler Murray experiment, they began shoring up their holes on the defense by signing Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, and Mack Wilson heading into the draft. As mentioned, they had a hole at wide receiver, and boy did they fill it by landing Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 4. They had a first-round pick and scooped Darius Johnson at number 27, who will likely shift to defensive end. Max Melton was great value at number 43, who will likely be the starting left corner opposite Sean Murphy-Bunting, along with Elijah Jones, who was selected at number 90, can make a run for the right cornerback position. Tip Raymond at number 82 could be an intriguing tight end as soon as this season. Could eventually end up being the steal of the draft. He has a lot of Gronk-like attributes. Will be real interesting to see how Drew Petzig creates wrinkles for Raymond. But he's a great pairing with Trey McBride, who is a good tight end in and of himself. The remainder of the draft is just great depth and value selections, particularly with Trey Benson at number 66 to back up James Conner, who is just perpetually injured. Number 3, the Philadelphia Eagles. Coming into the 2024 offseason, the Eagles had holes at defensive back, wide receiver, and offensive line, particularly with Kelsey's retirement. The Eagles started crushing right out the gate, grabbing Saquon Barkley for a reasonable 3-year contract. As long as he stays healthy, and we all know that's a big if, he will keep linebackers in the secondary honest, allowing Hurts and company to cook. The Eagles also signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson to play cornerback and Bryce Huff to play outside linebacker, both to 3-year deals. Kenny Pickett was an interesting trade acquisition with the Steelers to back up Hurts. As a Steelers fan, I hated the first-round pick of him back in 2022. Legit was so mad. I had the receipts to prove it. But in the right environment, which Matt Canada did not provide him, maybe he can develop into a capable backup and spot starter. His talent is undeniable, but his decision-making is what was so troubling in Pittsburgh. Now for the draft. The Eagles needed cornerback and immediately went and grabbed Quinyon Mitchell at number 22 and Cooper DeJean at number 40, who I didn't even think would be there at 40. Jalex Hunt at number 94 is going to be real interesting to see how he develops coming from Houston Christian to the NFL, but he just looks like another Khalil Mack who came out of Buffalo. The rest of the draft was good value and depth, but the Eagles really did not address wide receiver or the offensive line with high draft picks, but Paris Campbell, who was also picked up in the offseason, could be a pretty good third wide receiver between A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Number 4, Washington Commanders. When is the last time you could legit look anyone in the eyes and say the Commanders crushed in an offseason? I honestly cannot even remember offhand. Coming into the offseason, the Commanders needed a quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line, and edge. Leading into the draft, the Commanders signed Austin Eckler to a 2-year contract to battle Brian Robson Jr. for touches. And to be just straightforward with you, I have been a huge Brian Robson Jr. fan. The dude legitimately got shot and came back in the same season. I mean, what a gamer. They also signed Bobby Wagner, who is really not going to likely bring a high level of play, but he is going to change the tone of the defense with his leadership, just like Eckler will on offense. Frank Louvu was signed to a 3-year deal to play Willie linebacker. Tyler Biadasz was signed to a 3-year deal to play center. It will be interesting to see how Dorrance Armstrong performs as a starter at defensive end, and how quickly can Jeremy Reeves return from his ACL tear to maybe take over the starting strong safety position over Jeremy Chinn. Most importantly, Washington signed Cliff Kingsbury to be the offensive coordinator. He may not be a great head coach, but he has been successful on the offensive side of the ball everywhere he's ever coached. And my God, my Steelers, why did you not go and get him when he was completely available? Jaden Daniels was taken at number 2 and may end up being the best quarterback of this draft once all is said and done. Kingsbury is going to absolutely make sure Daniels is in a place to succeed. If I was Kingsbury, though, I would show a whole bunch of tape of Cam Newton and Richardson from the Colts and explain to Daniels hot, fast, and in a hurry why you need to freaking slide, step out of bounds, live for another play. But I think he's going to cook under Kingsbury. They were able to grab their new starting left tackle in Brandon Coleman at number 67. Luke McCaffrey should immediately start as a third wide receiver next to Scary Terry and Johan Dotson, making him a good value at number 100. And I know there may be some people that will say Luke McCaffrey might have been there another 40, 50 picks later. But damn, I mean, he produced for Rice. And I'm going off the top of my head, but I think he played for somebody like SMU or UTEP, and he also produced there as well. But it's pretty undeniable to go with a McCaffrey. His father was a success. His brother is potentially going to make a run for the greatest running back, or at least two-way running back in the history the league has ever seen. I am completely okay with Luke McCaffrey at number 100. And he might legitimately be a wide receiver that seemingly comes out of nowhere with higher than expected stats solely because, of where he's come from. But man, that pedigree. And, at some point, Dotson will likely take over wide receiver 1. Scary Terry is already starting to shift to 2. But they both require sometimes double teams. And I think that's going to happen pretty early in the season. when you see that the quarterback is a success. And I think that's going to open up McCaffrey for a pretty good first year. The remainder of the draft, including earlier picks, their second rounds will either be excellent depth or push for starting jobs sometime this season in Zerzon Newton and Mike Sanristel. Number 5, and I hate to admit it, but it's just facts, but the Baltimore Ravens. Coming into the offseason, Baltimore needed cornerback, offensive line, and edge. The Ravens are already generally a top running team in the entire league, and all they did was pair Derrick Henry with Lamar Jackson. Just absolutely crazy. The Ravens then immediately addressed their top 2 issues by taking Nate Wiggins at number 30 to play defensive back behind Marlon Humphrey, then drafted their new starting guard and Roger Rosengarten at number 62, who has position flexibility to play offensive tackle for Washington. I will say Nick Wiggins is likely going to be the starting nickel whenever those packages are ran. The remainder of their picks were good depth selections, as the Ravens always seem to have a great secondary and linebacker group. With the running game that the Ravens are going to have, they will be able to keep and sustain long drives, keeping the defense fresh. If you haven't gotten this by now, the AFC North, once again, is just going to beat the crap out of one another. Next time I produce one of these videos, I'm going to discuss the 5 teams that had the worst offseason. Like what I had to say, please be sure to follow, like, and subscribe to me. And share me on whatever social media you saw this posted. I cannot thank you enough for listening to what my World's Okayest opinions are. Lastly, it costs $0 to be kind. It's the best money that you'll ever spend. Until next time, beautiful people. Peace.